Before we get into this special weekend edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this weekend show. Curtis Smith, chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party, joins us to talk about the upcoming GOP reorganizational precinct meetings for Spartanburg County. We'll also give you information for other counties as well. President Donald Trump is close to finalizing his cabinet choices and senior leadership positions for his second administration. Brooke Rollins was recently sworn in to be the 33rd Secretary of Agriculture, and we visit with her to discuss the first priorities of the Department of Ag. South Carolina has seen a number of local bars and restaurants close due to increasing liability insurance rates. This caused excessive legal costs. Tort reform is one of the top issues that the South Carolina General Assembly is considering this session. We visit with Lt Governor Pamella Evette to discuss what the governor would like to see happen. And also joining us is Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber, to offer his insights from a business perspective. And finally, Chris Smith with the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association is with us to talk about the work that his organization is doing to ensure the legislature passes reforms that will lead to lower insurance costs and help the business environment. It's a busy day. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
We're in the middle of making all the preparations for REORG this spring. In just a few weeks, counties will start having their precinct meetings and then the county conventions, and then the South Carolina GOP will convene in Columbia in May for the state convention. On our guest line today, a guy who's done this a few times, chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party, Curtis Smith. Welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Joey. I hope everybody's doing great.
We are doing wonderful. I know you've been busy. Before we get into the specifics, dates and places and all, give us an overview of what takes place during REORG.
Well, according to statute, by law, the Republicans reorganize in the odd years, and the Democrats do it in the even years. And what we do is we take all the precincts in the county, and they have their REORG. They all get together, elect new officers, elect new delegates to the county convention, and elect people that they nominate people they think should go to the state convention. Then after they do that, during the REORG, which is the month of March, then in the month of April, the counties hold their conventions. And this year we have 1,258 delegates from our county to our county convention. That's probably the largest number we've ever had, which is going to be good. So finding locations is important that can handle this number of people. But anyway, in April, we will have a county convention, and we will elect new county officers, and then we will elect the delegates to go to the state convention, which will happen in May.
Yeah. There's been some online discussion about timelines and when the precincts meet, where they're going to meet. The dates and location for the Spartanburg precincts. I understand that you guys have just posted those. All of these dates, though, the state law provides for certain meetings to take place at a certain time, right?
That is correct. The law says that we have to hold the county convention at least 2 weeks before the state convention. And the state just said they're going to hold theirs on May the 3rd, which knocked out the last 2 weeks in April, which got us all scrambling because we thought we would have plenty of time to do it late April. Remember, the 1st of April, we have Easter, and then the first couple weeks in April, they have spring break where all the kids go on vacation. So scrambling to get a place and a time where 1,200 people can get together for the county convention became one of the big issues.
Yeah.
And then, by law, we have to do the REORG in March. And we were trying to make sure that we had the right numbers, and there were lots of discussions with the state as to what primaries we were going to use. So we had to wait until those were finalized, which just happened about 10 days ago, so that we would be able to know where we're doing. And now that's where our 1,258 delegates came from because we used the Republican June primary to calculate how many delegates we were going to have for the county convention.
Yep. With me today, Chairman of the Republican Party in Spartanburg County, Curtis Smith. All right, so let's just walk through this. So the first step in this process will be precinct meetings. When will those be, and where will they be?
Well, what we have done is we've divided the county up into thirds, primarily following our county council lines, so that we can keep everybody geographically located so they don't have to drive across the county. And since now we have 112 precincts, we've added 15 and 18 precincts since the last time we reorganized. So now with all these new people that are here, we decided to do these in thirds. So we have in 1 week, we did from March the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, and 20th. We have put together 3 dates so that the team can actually run 3 locations. The first one is going to be a group, primarily it's from people who are in County Council District 1 and 3. We have a list of all the precincts, and it comes out to about 38 of them. And that will be on Monday, March the 17th at 6:30, and that's going to be at the Spartanburg Community College Tiger River campus, 1875 East Main Street in Duncan. And we have it published online so everybody can take a look at where they are. And you'll see that, Abner Creek all the way down through the last of the ones that they have. It's a good number.
Yeah. And so you said, so you basically have several nights here. The next night I see March the 18th, Tuesday. Again, that's another group of precincts. And then another on Thursday, March the 20th, another group of precincts.
That is correct.
Yep. So what if someone who is driving right now can't take notes, you said it's posted online, where do they find that if they need to look it up later?
Well, it's on our Facebook page, and we have sent it to over 4,000 people. We've also sent it to your radio station to be there. But if you go on Spartanburg County Republican Party at our webpage, you're going to find the Facebook site, and that's where it's going to be sitting.
Oh, okay.
So you can take a look at it right there.
Yeah. So you can find it there. Just find your precinct and then find out which night and where you need to go to be there. Now, what should people expect to do once they get to the precinct meeting?
Well, they have to bring their voter registration card and their voter registration number is what we're looking for, and a driver's license to prove that that's who they are. They will come in and we will record their numbers so that we can check them out to make sure they are a registered voter in Spartanburg County in that precinct. Then we will direct them to tables in the room where their precinct will meet, and we'll give them a Form 1, and they will be able then to meet everybody that's in their precinct, shake hands, write down all that are there, and then they will vote on who wants to be the president of their precinct, who's going to be the executive committeeman from their precinct, who's going to be the first vice president of their precinct. So they elect the officers, and that's important because those are the people that will get out the vote and help us with communications in the precincts.
Yeah.
They'll be the ones who will help, organize some meetings. So when that's all done, then they vote all those people, they turn back in, they record it on a Form 2, turn it back into us, we will go down through and certify it, and then we will see all the people they've elected to come to the county convention. And with that information, then we'll be able to put together the lists of the delegates that are going to go to the county convention.
Yep. And then the county convention is when and where will that be?
Well, right now it's tentative at High Point Academy. And the reason why I say it's tentative because our executive committee will meet on February the 24th to confirm it, but it'll be April the 12th. And as I said, we were looking at the month of April. The second half of April was knocked off because of the state's convention being on May the 3rd. The first weekend is Easter, and then we have spring break. So the 12th is really the only day we had left in April that would probably conveniently work with everybody. So we're going to recommend that to the EC on the 27th. And it will start, registration will start at 9 on that date, and we will try to kick the convention off at 10.
Yep. Curtis Smith with me today, chairman of the Spartanburg Republican Party. If you need additional information, just look up the Spartanburg County Republican Party online. You can find them on Facebook, their website. You can get this information on there as far as where your precinct meeting will take place. And then, of course, that will lead to the county convention as well. Now, Curtis, this takes a lot of time. I mean, you've talked about a lot of details here as far as the precinct meetings themselves and then the county convention. Who does all of this?
Well, we have a group of us. We're all volunteers. None of us get paid anything. And we have to go find the locations. We have to get the insurance. We have to get the security. We have to get the signs. We have to get all the Form 1s and the Form 2s put together. We have to get the envelopes so that everybody has the right information when they get to the reorg and when they get to the county convention. And then even going forward to the state convention, we have to have documentation and stuff. So we have a group of 8 of us and volunteers from the precincts who work very hard in the month of February to get this thing going.
Yep. Well, it takes a lot of people to give of their time to do this, and I applaud all of you who are involved. Look, I've done this myself over the years, and it is a lot of work, but it's it's an important part of our political process. And so, look, if you are one of those who like to be involved and you like to have input in what takes place, then this is where it all starts, right here at your precinct meeting coming up. And of course, we're talking about Spartanburg County. Other counties will have the same process, but just different times, different places. So if you're in another county, just search for your county's Republican Party, and they'll have information posted as well. Or if you can't find it, email me, and I'll try to find it for you. Curtis Smith, it's always a pleasure. Again, I appreciate the time and effort you put into this, and I look forward to seeing you. I won't see you at the precinct meeting. I'm in Abner Creek. Well, I guess I will. You'll be. Will you be at all the precinct meetings?
All of them.
All right. Well, I'll see.
Be at all the precinct meetings.
I'll see you. My precinct is Abner Creek, so I'll see you then, and then of course I'll see you at the county convention as well.
Okay, Joey. Thank you.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. I had a chance to do my first interview with a cabinet official in the first Trump administration. There were a number of times that I was able to interview cabinet officials, a couple of secretaries of various agencies, and it's always fun. I had the opportunity a couple times to do my radio show from the White House, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again. I'm looking forward to maybe when the weather warms up, they'll have a radio row outside of the West Wing and the press office there. They've done that a couple of times where they literally just set up these tents out on the White House lawn and invite us up to do our show. So hopefully in the spring, summer, we'll be able to do that. Yesterday, though, I had a chance to interview the Trump administration Secretary of Agriculture. She was just confirmed and sworn in last week, Brooke Rollins. She's from Texas, and here's my conversation with Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins. On her first official trip as President Trump's on his cabinet, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins traveled to Kentucky last week to meet with farmers and other leaders in the agricultural community, and I'm happy to say that she joins us on our guest line today. Madam Secretary, welcome, and how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you. Before we get into some of the issues that we're going to talk about today, take us behind the scenes, if you will, and tell us about the process. When did you know that President Trump was going to nominate you to be his Secretary of Ag?
Well, actually, this is so fun you asked this because I haven't told it publicly yet, but it's an amazing story. So what your listeners may not know is I worked for the president in the last White House, year 2, 3, and 4 of term 1. I ran his domestic policy agenda, got to work right alongside him. And then in the intervening 4 years, I like to call it the Great Pause. During the Great Pause, I built the America First Policy Institute and really was working to prepare for the next administration so that, when President Trump won again and he went in with his new administration, that the shock and awe would start on day one. And so now, did I expect to be part of that cabinet? I actually did not. I was really happy to keep helping on the outside. I was, building a 100-year infrastructure along with other amazing patriots at America First Policy and America First Works. And my husband and I and our 4 kids were driving in our motorhome from Texas to Alabama to watch the Aggies play Auburn in a football game. We won't talk about the outcome of the game on this show because it did not go our way. But as it seems very appropriate now and maybe providential, as we're driving across Mississippi, Texas and Alabama, I got a call from the president, and we discussed being his 33rd Secretary of Agriculture. I was honored, obviously, beyond belief, the opportunity to fight for American agriculture, our farmers and our ranchers, the backbone of this country, is truly the greatest honor and the best job in the world.
Yeah. You mentioned those 4 years, those were painful years for us. But, God works in mysterious ways. And I've just got to believe that maybe we needed those 4 years to really prepare for the next 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, whatever that is. Do you feel like that's the case?
I 100% do. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the White House before, I'm so proud of all those accomplishments. And right, energy independence, a secure border, the lowest poverty rates on record. I mean, it was one win after another, but it was almost a miracle. Maybe it was because we're not good at government on our side, right? We're good at building businesses and raising families. The left really bows to the altar of government and climate, and that's their fastball. That's what they live for, is to accumulate power and to make decisions for people instead of letting people make their own decisions, which is what we believe. And what I realized in the last White House is that if we can prepare, if we can build a bench, if we start to get ready for the next White House and then the one after that and then the one 100 years from now, we've got the truth and God on our side. And when you have that and you add a plan to it, you can win. And that's what I learned in the last White House. So while we were devastated on November 4th of 2020, when that election we believe was taken from us, I knew that we had to begin to plan immediately. I didn't know President Trump would be the next, the one to go in, but I knew that whomever it was, that if we were prepared, we could actually save a country. And I believe that God gave us those 4 years to be able to prepare and do that.
Yeah. On our guest line today, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins. President Trump has asked all federal agencies, of course, to review and to cut wasteful spending. In this short time that you've been on the job, because you just took the oath of office last week, what have you been able to identify so far in the Department of Agriculture?
Well, it has been just a remarkable couple of days. Within my first 24 hours, we announced the ending 1,000 DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which basically means dividing us. We announced 1,000 of those being canceled for good. We've begun to roll back all of the climate, the Green New Deal efforts. We have been laying off a lot of the 106,000 USDA employees. I'm still getting my arms around it. Obviously, the United States Department of Agriculture is one of the most important in ensuring that the backbone of our country, our farmers and ranchers, can succeed. But when you've got 106,000 employees and 80% of your budget is the food stamp program, which is under USDA, you know that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity to streamline, make more efficient, and ensure that our taxpayers are getting the most for their money. So that's what we've really been focused on, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that going forward.
Yeah. You had the opportunity to be in Kentucky last week, meeting with farmers. What was top of mind for those farmers that you met with?
Well, and not only was I in Kentucky Friday, I was in Kansas Monday, Missouri yesterday, headed to Oklahoma on next Monday, Georgia soon after. I'm really planning to try to be in the country talking to the farmers and the ranchers as much as I'm talking to anybody else. I think that's so important. Listen, we are facing in perhaps 100 years the most difficult time in the ag community economically. Under the Joe Biden 4 years, our exports went from being a plus 50 billion, meaning that we were shipping our ag products out of this country when Trump left office 4 years ago, to a $45 billion export deficit that we're facing after 4 years of Biden. Our inputs, the cost, of course, not surprising to all of your listeners, inflation has gone out of control, but it is now 30% more expensive for our farmers and ranchers to do business, to provide what they provided just 4 years ago, 30% more expensive. We've lost 140,000 family farms in recent history. This is not sustainable. We can't keep going if we want an ag industry. So these are all massive issues. Of course, immediately the avian flu, which hits everybody because of the cost of eggs we've all seen at the grocery store. We've got some pretty big issues to tackle, but I feel so strongly that with President Trump's leadership, and hopefully I'll be able to help in my perch, that we're going to be able to tackle all of that successfully in very short order.
Yeah. Secretary Brooke Rollins, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing, and we're going to expect big things in the next 4 years.
The Mike Gallagher Show, you are always and have always been such great friends of this administration, and I'll come on anytime you need me, so thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we'll certainly take you up on that. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yes. Again, that was my conversation yesterday as I sat in for Mike Gallagher while he was at a media day at the White House. Ms. Rollins has a very impressive resume, as she has worked on a number of things. As she mentioned, she was held a couple of different positions in the first Trump administration. She's been very active since then with the America First Policy Council. She researches things. She's one of the folks who's been working behind the scenes these past 4 years, getting ready for these 4 years of the Trump administration. Tort reform has been a big issue for a number of years now. And if you thought it was just another mundane legislative issue, then think again. In South Carolina, the battle over lawsuit reform has come to a boiling point, if you will, drawing in powerful interests, business leaders, even a surprising voice. Donald Trump Jr. recently weighed in via X. We'll tell you about that in just a minute. On the one side, you have South Carolina's entire business community, including small mom-and-pop shops, corporate leaders, the governor, insurance providers, all calling for common-sense lawsuit reform. On the other side, you have powerful trial attorneys who are fighting to maintain a system that's been in place for decades. And then there's Trump Jr., whose unexpected opposition to the reform bill has added a surprising twist. A number of pro-business organizations are weighing in on this discussion as the state Senate considers Senate Bill 244. Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greenville Chamber, talked with us this week about the Greenville Chamber's position in his weekly legislative update. Matt, things got a little interesting this week, didn't they?
They did. You know, I think in politics, you know, when people push, others push back, and I think we saw that with Senator Massey finally getting fed up with some of the somewhat unfounded rhetoric coming from the trial lawyer set.
Yeah. So give us a quick summary of why this issue is important and then where you think we stand.
Sure. You know, I think of utmost importance, it's providing a fair environment for businesses to do what they do, whether it's a restaurant and a bar, whether it is a trucking company, whether it is a delivery company. You know, yes, insurance issues are a problem in this state, but so is the lawsuit environment. It is. I think this week I saw an interview with a USC professor from Darla Moore School, and literally what stuck with me was it is open season on South Carolina business, 365, 7 days a week, and you're just like, man, there is no wonder why we praise the people that are getting businesses to this state to expand in this state and stay in this state. With the environment that we're currently providing, and I think the biggest push right now is just to offer some competitive fairness, not competitive fairness. That's a kind of a short-sighted piece, I think. But I think if you're looking for certainty and trying to make decisions for longer-term forecasting when it comes to businesses, this is really one of those things that really is top of mind for a lot of folks running said businesses.
So what's the overall temperature among legislators in Columbia, and what do you see as the solution to this?
Sure. I think it depends on who you're specifically talking about. You know, when we have our lawyer set of legislators, temperature is pretty hot. When it comes to, you know, folks that are wanting, you know, an environment that is fair, that is, you know, an economic based outcome, you know, based on what you put forth into the market, it seems to be a pretty unified front. There's a lot of noise. You know, we talked about last week about being there, some gaslighting going on with some of these folks, but I think from the broader picture, it literally is just the certainty businesses need in order to succeed, in order to make policy decisions of their own.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening now in Columbia is long past due. I think we're the folks that are kind of on the fence about 244, the tort reform bill, really are a lot closer to being supportive of 244 than they are being completely against it, which is a very good thing.
Yeah. Matt Wills with the Greenville Chamber. In a nutshell, most business leaders agree that we need a system based on proportional liability, holding each party accountable for their actual share of an accident. I mean, it really sounds like common sense, right? South Carolina's current law allows businesses to be held 100% responsible, even if they're only 1% at fault. This issue is particularly devastating for small businesses, especially bars, taverns, restaurants. The current system creates massive legal vulnerabilities that drive up costs, force many to close. That we've seen a number of locally owned businesses, small businesses, bars, restaurants that have had to close because they simply cannot afford to pay the insurance anymore. I also had a chance to catch up with Lt Governor Pamella Evette because she and Governor McMaster have made tort reform a priority in their legislative agenda this year.
Tort reform for the last, it got to be a really hot topic over the last, I would say, 2 years, year and a half, where you started to see a lot of restaurants saying, I have to close my doors because I can't afford these insurance prices. And so, tort reform has really come on everybody's radar because it's been so widely talked about. Everybody has wanted it. I know everybody likes to see a bill turn out in its own way. The governor and I are saying, all right, General Assembly, put together something that protects South Carolina businesses, that opens up the market so insurance companies want to come to South Carolina, right? Because, Joey, that becomes the problem. When things start getting so bad and so tight, insurance companies pull out of the South Carolina. And so the fewer, it's like with anything. When competition starts to wane, prices start to go up. So I'm glad that they're working on it. The naysayers forever said this will never happen in the General Assembly. And so I'm seeing it happen, and I think that is a really great thing.
Yeah. Well, it's an important issue because it's affected a lot of people around the state. It's affected, as you mentioned, some of the small businesses. We've seen a number of restaurant, bars, longtime businesses who have had to close because they simply can't afford the liability insurance. I mean, I've heard personally, I've interviewed people, I've heard stories of insurance going from $1,000 a year to $30,000, $40,000 a year, and that's just for a small business. That's impossible to do. So I hope that the legislature can come up with a nice solution that can pretty much satisfy everybody. My conversation earlier this week with Lt Governor Pamella Evette talking about Senate Bill 244 that is currently being considered that could potentially change the way our businesses are held responsible for various things. South Carolina is sort of an outlier when it comes to tort laws. Other states like Florida have enacted the much-needed reforms that have stabilized their insurance markets, protected their businesses. Governor Ron DeSantis spearheaded a wave of litigation reforms in 2022, 2023, leading to the return of insurers in Florida, which has increased the competition and lowered the insurance rates. That's what we have to see here in South Carolina. So hopefully the Senate will come together. They'll pass a bill that can also get the support of the House. Senate Bill 244 is the one that most people are focusing on. That's the one that Matt Wills and I were talking about, the one Lt Governor Pamella Evette and I were talking about. Seems to be the direction that we're headed. We just need to let our state senators, let our state House of Representatives know that we have to do something. We can't continue to have the small business community in South Carolina suffer because of these outrageous liability laws. Coming up, we're going to talk with Chris Smith. He is the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Chris is a bar owner. He has been affected by this firsthand. He knows exactly what's happening, and so we're going to check in with Chris and let him tell us firsthand just how this is affecting business in South Carolina. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Over the past year, we've seen many of our favorite hometown restaurants, bars close because of liability insurance in South Carolina has become unaffordable. The South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association was formed by a group of citizens concerned with the direction of the South Carolina bar industry. The purpose of the association is to have a unified voice in the state capitol to advocate for tort reform and other things that are needed in order to help save the bar and tavern business in South Carolina. Joining me today is Chris Smith, the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm well, Joey. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
It helps us get the word out on this issue.
Well, this is an issue that we all that affects everybody. And you guys had a news conference in Columbia. Yesterday, of course, was the opening day of the legislature. You guys were down in Columbia. You had a news conference. Talk with us about that, who you talked with, and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, so we had a press conference with the South Carolina Policy Council, the Mom and Pop Alliance, SC Venue Crisis, the Restaurant and Lodging Association, and a couple other groups. We've been meeting over the past few months together, kind of to go over overall tort reform. The way the laws are now, it's unfair and unequitable for businesses to stay open. And as the governor loves to tout that we are one of the business friendliest states in the country. So we want him to stick to that word, and also the state legislature to stick to that word and change these laws. So that way bars, taverns, pool halls, bowling alleys, venues can stay open. So that was the purpose. And we met with a lot of different legislators. I'm still here at the state capitol. So I've got some more meetings today. And so we're getting a positive sense here that something will get done this session.
Yeah. Well, and that's good news. You know, I've had a number of members of the South Carolina House and the state Senate on the show over the past few weeks, and this has been one of the questions that I've asked them. In fact, yesterday morning, I had Representative Jordan Pace on with me, and we specifically talked about tort reform and what it's going to take. And you're right. I mean, I think the situation that bar and tavern owners and restaurant owners have found themselves in because of the liquor liability issue, that has just really brought the overall issue that we've had. And you're right. It's not just your industry, but other industries. It took you guys, and unfortunately some of the popular restaurants around the state to close to really get people's attention in what's happening, because you're right. We have a situation in South Carolina where people like to sue one another, and it's easy for them to sue one another. So let's talk a minute about what legislation has been filed as far as tort reform, because I've heard a lot of different ideas out there. What do you guys hope will pass this year?
So we actually, with that coalition that had a press conference with, we actually will be debuting our own legislation here in the next couple of weeks. We are just tweaking some language, getting some feedback from some of the legislators who are on our side on this issue. So that way we can bring the people who aren't on our side currently into the fold and hopefully get this bill passed. So I know there are a few bills out there that were pre-filed. I know Representative Mark Smith filed one. I know the Speaker, also the Speaker's people filed one. And then there is Senate Bill, I think it's S-114, if I'm correct, that also talks about this issue. So there's a few different bills out there, but we are specifically going to be filing our own bill.
Okay, and what will that consist of? What are the highlights of the bill that you're going to and who will be filing it for you?
So that is still up for discussion, but basically it'll change some of the verbiage. Instead of legally intoxicated, it'll say visibly intoxicated, and it will also have a different percentages on who is responsible. So currently, the way it is now is if I walk into bar A and I have 5 beers, and then I go to bar 2 and I have 2 beers, And then I go to bar 3, I have 1 beer. They're all equally responsible.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, bar number 1 should have the majority of responsibility because they served me 5 beers. And then bar 2 should have a small responsibility in bar 3. So we're changing the formula on the proportion of who's liable. Same amount, the $1 million, but it's just changing the formula.
Right. Where are you finding support for your cause? I know there's a lot of legislators who have talked about it. And where do you think you're going to find resistance?
Well, I think we're in pretty good shape in the Senate. We lost by 2 votes last year on a bill, but there are 4 senators who lost.
Yep.
So we picked up some votes. So now we should be on the right side in the Senate. And then the House is where our fight's going to be.
Yeah.
The Speaker and his people have pushed back consistently since this became an issue over 2 years ago. So we're gonna have to see what we could do. We're gonna have to put some pressure on. We've got a kind of a campaign that we're going to be doing. With the Bar and Tavern Association, amongst other groups, have money that we're going to be spending, and we'll be targeting places, billboards, social media.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get up on TV in certain areas, we're going to do that as well. So.
And don't forget about talk radio.
Absolutely.
So what is the Speaker's objection to what you guys want?
I mean, the problem in the House is just the overall plaintiff's lawyer, ambulance chasers.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but that's basically what it is. And so a majority of the members, are plaintiff's lawyers.
Yep.
And so that's where the pushback is. They look at it that this will take money out of their pocket. So instead of being able to clean up $3 million, they'll only be able to clean up a certain percentage from each place.
Yeah.
So, it's they look at it putting a dent in their pocket.
Right.
And so that's where the pushback is.
Yep. With me today, Chris Smith. He's the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. All right, Chris, let's just pretend that you guys get the legislation passed that you want, everything that you want. Once that is done and the governor signs it into law, how long will it take before you will actually start seeing some relief?
I think it'll take at least, we saw this in Alabama with their dram shop tort reform bill. They are still upside down there. So it could take up to 2 years before we see some relief, or hopefully it'll be quicker. Yeah. I know there's a number of insurance companies that are kind of chomping at the bit to get back in here. Obviously, we're down to, depending on your situation, we'll say overall there are 10 insurance companies.
Yeah.
Most people are only getting a quote from 2 out of the 10 just based on different circumstances, whether you have a pool table or you have a DJ or you do trivia. So things like that.
Right.
That's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Has there been any discussion of some type of state-run insurance program, some type of underwriting program that might lure some of these insurance companies back?
Yeah, so there was a discussion about a state-run insurance fund, but you know how government works. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, having the state government have their hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. And so, I mean, that's a discussion that could be had more if there are certain things in place, certain regulations, and but I'm not really sure, to be honest, that would be the answer.
Yep. With me today, Chris Smith, executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Let's talk about your association, because it's my understanding that you guys, this is a fairly new organization, that you all came together primarily because of this one issue.
Yeah, so that is correct. We were formed in May 15th of last year, to be specific. We kind of saw a void. The SC venue crisis, who started this movement, was kind of taking a back seat. They had been traveling all over the state for basically a year and a half, and got tired. So I saw there was no one to advocate, and I kind of looked at the restaurant and lodging association and the truckers association, and I said, hey, why don't we get a bunch of people together, put a board together, and let's create an association. We are a 501c6, which means we're a nonprofit, but we can't get involved in specific races, but we can overall get involved in politics.
Sure.
So we can't give money to a specific candidate, but we could give money to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party.
Sure.
In certain counties, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Chris, I appreciate your time today, and I hope that you'll check back with us again throughout the session. We'll certainly be watching things and understand that you have a voice here with us for sure, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, Joey. You have a good rest of your day.
That's it for this special weekend edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.